What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Clutch. We have an amazing guest this evening for you. So get ready, strap up, get ready to pour some down your throat because we're definitely going to be doing that tonight. This video is not sponsored, so don't get it twisted. Zach, man, how the fuck are you?
I'm fucking great, dude. It's been a really good day. I think at this point the entire world has been alerted to
They
what
are
I've got
tired
going
of
on here in terms of
our faces and
dude,
your
I'm
storyline.
100% sure of it. I'm 100% sure of it. Like my Instagram notifications have been going crazy all day. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but no,
thing.
yeah, I mean it's freaking good, man. I'm super stoked to be on here. I appreciate you inviting me, and like I said, like again, we kind of interacted a bit on Chris Eaton's, the breeder live, which was a lot of fun through Zoom. And yeah, so I've been looking forward to this all week, man. I'm stoked. Like literally, I was when I was making my video about finding eggs, which I guess we'll dive into that at some point. Like I made a comment. I was like, man, like I woke up this morning like already super excited because I knew I had this coming up to look forward to tonight. So I was like, trying to clean the snake room up because I've been trying to get some other video stuff shot. So I have stuff everywhere. Like if you guys could see off camera right now, there's literally like everything right here that you guys can't see is just there's just shit everywhere. But yeah, I was already excited. So when I had babies pipping out, I was like losing my fucking mind. So yeah, everything's good, dude.
So first year breeding, we're gonna start it off with the good stuff, and then we're just gonna keep it rolling to the storyline and better stuff. So, like I said, guys, hold on. First year breeding, right?
Yep. Yeah, first year actually breeding. I've been keeping for at least like this time around, and keeping for 3 years. Between ball pythons, and I've also got some dwarf reticulated pythons. We'll dive into that at some point. But yeah, I've been keeping for 3 years, and this was my first year actually doing some pairings. I was mostly just raising stuff up between then and now. And the other part of it too, man, and I think this is something kind of important to cover for anybody that's new. Is just having that confidence, like my biggest stress kind of coming into this hobby, like I've been super excited about it, obviously. And I knew that I wanted to breed. But I also knew that like I didn't want to breed, not to say that like low quality animals, but my biggest worry is to create something that I can't sell, and to create an animal that's like quote unquote unwanted, right? And that's just an insecurity that I had kind of coming into this.
Yeah, you don't want that wholesale animal. You want to create quality.
And sure. And the thing is it's to me it's interesting, talking to the more people that you talk to in this business. Most people will tell you like their normals are the fastest things they sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's wholesale or selling them at shows. So it's not even just that fear of like a low quality animal. I guess, like I said, the biggest thing for me was just that insecurity of like when I was first getting into it, I just I didn't really know anybody. I wasn't putting myself out there on social media like I do now. I mean, like I said, I've been in the hobby for 3 years. I mean, dude, up until about a year ago, I didn't even have an Instagram at all. And then if you even look back on my Instagram, even when I created it, I think I only have like 100 posts on there, or 102 posts. I wasn't posting about my reptiles. I wasn't interacting with this community. Just, not for any particular reason. It's just, I guess, like I said, I just wasn't secure in like really what I wanted to do. And like, I didn't really know the direction.
Right. No, it makes perfect sense, man. I think the way
so
that
I think my point was just
taking it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the way you've taken it is really smart, in all honesty. Like a lot of people, and I say this from personal experience because if you've watched my rise and fall and re-rise, so yeah. I went hard in the paint in YouTube, right? Like right off the bat, I was like, that's how you market yourself. You need to focus on YouTube. And I did really well. And then I burnt myself the fuck out. You know what I mean? So I dropped off the map for like half a year. And I just kept doing my thing. But you did it smart, man. Like you took the time to really realize what you wanted, to do it the right way, and figure out how to do it the right way. And then you fucking enacted your plan. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just I'm going to breed ball pythons or I'm going to breed this or I'm going to breed that. And let me create 3 different fucking accounts for my business
Yeah.
and just mass
And then
spam
try to
everything.
juggle it all. Yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
I'll
like
tell you,
you took it in
I'm
steps. It's fucking amazing, man.
I'm glad that it has worked out that way. I would love to take credit, but I'll admit that wasn't totally by design. It was a lot of just, like, again, like, it comes back to, there was a little bit of just insecurity with myself, but and just again, like, trying to feel out the hobby, trying to feel out, like, is this really something that I can do? I think that, like I said, my biggest worry was not that, like, can I sell these animals? Because anybody can sell an animal, but again, the biggest thing for me was, like, can I sell these animals to people that actually are going to care about them, and can I produce something that I'm going to enjoy? I'm not the guy that, I was dating a girl at the time when I got back into this hobby, and she and I would go to, like, the local Repticon, which, the Repticon shows are okay. They're definitely not like an NARBC or whatever, but it was all we really had access to. We didn't even know anything about NARBC shows or any of that at the time, so we were just kind of getting our feet wet. But anyways, when walking around the shows, like, she and I were kind of on the same page that, like, not that we were talking bad about anyone, but we're just like, there were certain tables where we're like, I don't want to be like these people, in the sense that, like, I don't want to be these people that are sitting down in a chair staring at their cell phone, completely uninterested in what's going on
Right.
around them, completely uninterested in interacting with the people that may or may not want to buy their animals. Like, I didn't want to wind up like that. In the sense that, like I said, I never wanted to just fall into, I never wanted to produce animals and then feel like I had to show up somewhere just to sell them. I want to, I mean, I think my passion for this industry really, I hope at least that it comes across, because I'm super passionate about these animals, the running joke is that I'm like the big ultramel proponent, which, I'll gladly take up that, take up that mantle, if you will. But yeah, it's just the passion, and like I said, the way that I've kind of, like, done things, a lot of it's just been by accident, man. But I think I said it on Antoine's stream that, the greatest thing I ever did, man, was just get comfortable and lean into this passion that I have, because I've had it for a long time, and I was just, for whatever reason, like, I guess maybe I didn't really know how to navigate it, or didn't know where to start. But man, like, Discord, like, Brian Cusco's Discord, I would say that's like the biggest, like, kind of jumping off point for me, was giving me that, like, private, area to interact with just a handful of people. And then, dude, I've just blown up from there in terms of just my passion for really just interacting with people in this hobby.
So what really got you into reptiles, man? Like, I know everyone does this fucking
Sure.
question. Like, don't
No,
get me wrong.
no,
I'm not
it's a good
asking
question.
for the, hey, what were you doing when you were fucking 6 years old, man? Like,
Yeah.
what made you
No,
decide that reptiles are going to be my thing?
so a couple things, so I had, we've got family in upstate New York, and on my stepfather's side, and I've got a cousin that was, like, my same age, and he had a field out behind his house. They had like 87 acres in upstate New York, and they had these literal, like, just by chance, it wasn't intentional, but they had these old roof tins that sat out in this field. And so when we were super young, we'd go
You
flip those
created
roof
the
tins over.
perfect
Obviously,
keeping
they got
spot.
heat. Exactly. And so literally, man, you'd flip those things over at the right part of the year, and there'd be like 50 snakes under there. So I remember that. Like, I'm just trying to think back to my kind of earliest memories. Before that, like, or I don't know, it was probably around the same time. Like, when I was in third grade, my third grade teacher had a ball python as our class pet. And she would let us stay after and like watch her feed the snake and stuff like that based on our parents' permission. I don't think you could probably get away with that in 2020, but which is unfortunate. But so there was
No.
that, and then also I went to an assembly in our gym when I was in elementary school. I went to like 3 different elementary schools, but this was like the last one, or the third. I went to 4 different elementary schools. Anyways, this particular one, I had
Hold
to
on,
have either
hold on,
been in
hold
second
on.
or third grade, and there was
You
this
went to 4 elementary
go yeah
schools. Was it because you got kicked
yeah
out
yeah.
of them,
So
or was it because you moved a lot?
I got both. I got I went, yeah. So I think I went to one for kindergarten, one for first grade, one for second grade, and then so second grade through fourth grade I was at the same elementary school. Fourth grade I got kicked out.
So you're like
Yeah,
fucking
and then I got moved on
Nava
to a
from
fourth elementary
Lords of
school.
Dogtown, and you're a fucking troublemaker, is what you're saying. All right, I
No,
could see
I
it,
mean,
man. I
I
could see
think
it.
so. So initially, yeah, initially it's because, so my parents were divorced. They got divorced when I was really young. like technically on paper, I'm an only child. So like I have 7 sisters, but it's like two stepsisters, 5 half sisters. And then I have 2 half brothers. My dad's been married 3 times. Mom's been married twice. So my family history is real complicated, but that's why I went to like multiple different schools. Like, and that's why I said I did initially move around a lot. And that's why I bounced from like one grade to the next at different schools. But then after that, I ended up getting in trouble. And I think the 2 things probably correlate. You know, my brother was also killed when I was 9. And so yeah, that definitely like, I think kind of pushed me into like, you know, just some anger and things like that. But it, you know, that anyways,
No, definitely.
getting back to like the reptile
Right.
thing. Yeah. So there was this dude named Okefenokee Joe in the state of Georgia. And I looked him up actually like within the last couple of years. And I guess he was like a country singer that basically like retired and like moved to this house in the woods, like of the Okefenokee Swamp. There's a swamp in Georgia called the Okefenokee Swamp. And he just got super obsessed with reptiles. And so I remember, like I said, it was either 2nd or 3rd grade. This guy came and did a presentation at my school in our gym, and he literally had like rattlesnakes and like all kinds of other stuff, and I was just obsessed. And my mom was super
And
supportive
yes,
of like my
Jeremy,
animal
that was
passion.
definitely planned.
Yes, it was. It totally was. I did laundry yesterday, so I was like, oh, my AAP shirt's clean. So but yeah, so that's a lot of it. Like there's multiple things, you know. Like I said, my first word was dog. You know, so I mean, literally from the time I could talk, I've always been obsessed with animals in one way or
Oh,
another,
yeah.
whether that was reptiles or not. So yeah, it's in my blood, man. It just is.
So, first reptile, how old were you and what was it?
So first reptile, around that same time, my mom absolutely was totally against us having snakes. So I unfortunately was not able, although we did sneak a couple into the house and we lost them. We never told her that. I still to this day don't remember if I've actually ever told her that at one point we had lost some snakes in the house. But yeah, they completely disappeared on us. So no, the first reptile I kept that we were actually like allowed to have was a green iguana. That my mom rescued was basically given, you know, was surrendered to her by a coworker. And they just, you know, they didn't want to take care of it anymore, or couldn't take care of it anymore. And so they gave it to us. And, you know, this was, you know, the 90s, man. And so obviously green iguanas at that point were obviously a super, super cheap pet. And I mean, even now everybody kind of knows, like they're not the greatest pet for people. You know, they need a lot of
Oh,
space, they need a lot
absolutely
of very
not.
specific care. And my stepdad was really the one that took care of it. Like thinking back on it, like we took great care of that thing. I mean, I remember that we had UVB on it, you know, we had it on proper heat and stuff, but the cage wasn't super big. You know, I think it was probably the equivalent of like a 50-gallon aquarium, but it was like I wouldn't say a homemade thing, but had like a screen front, you know.
Right.
And it was like aluminum. So I mean, we had a decent cage and this and the other. So I mean, we kept it very well, and it was always super healthy. But my stepdad was the only one that can interact with that thing. I don't know if it was wild caught or what. Again, keeping in mind this was the 90s. You know, and that thing was just, you know, it was just mean as a snake. And it was probably because the previous owner, you know, didn't really get to interact with it, and it didn't have the space to run around. So my stepdad, what he used to do was he would let it outside, you know, and just, you know, under supervision, of course. And eventually that didn't work out so well. It ended up a tree one day. He wasn't able to get it back, and we never saw it again. And so, you know, I still to this day feel kind of bad about that. I mean, accidents happen, and obviously, you know, there's nothing I could do. I mean, I didn't know anything about it at the time, and he didn't really either. I mean, it was a lot of just, you know, ignorance. This is pre-internet. You know, we didn't have a computer even at the time. It's not like you could really reach out and get a ton of information. So we did the best we could. But yeah, so that was the first reptile that we actually kept, and we think we had it for a couple of years.
Nice. So, what made you decide your path that you're on right now, Zach? Like, why ball pythons and retics?
So it's really funny. So I got my first ball python finally when I was in high school. I was living back with my dad. Again, my parents were divorced. I didn't bounce around forever, but when I was getting ready to go into high school, again, I was living in Atlanta, and the area that I was living in is Clayton County. It's kind of a rougher area. And you know, I saw where my dad was living. It was just a nicer part of town, you know, a nicer city, better schooling, and even at that young of an age. And I've always been, or not to pat myself on the back, but I've always considered myself to be at least relatively forward thinking. I've always been really forward thinking. I haven't always been really great at executing. I always, I made big plans for myself to go to a good college, which I did. I went to Auburn University, but anyways, I moved back up here, and that afforded me the ability to keep my first ball python because my dad was a little bit more cool with it, and so I got my first ball python, and I had that snake for probably 3 or 4 years until I left to go to college. So I transferred from a local community college down to Auburn University for mechanical engineering, and unfortunately, I was not able to take the snake with me. So I passed it along to somebody locally, and I was out of it for a long time. I was out of reptiles. I didn't have any pets while I was down there. And so fast forward a number of years, and what got me back into reptiles was a bearded dragon. I wanted a bearded dragon. I wanted snakes, but like I had kind of already kept that. So it's like, okay, well, I want something different. I want to do something new because, like I said, I just love all animals. So I got a bearded dragon, and I did all this research, and I got, I think he was a hypo for sure, and I don't remember this. He was a hypo tiger. Again, I don't, I only had him for a couple years, but I'm not super into the genetics. But like I knew like he was a decent breeder, But again, I got a male because I knew I didn't really want to breed him. But then of course like the bug hits. But anyway, so through like my research of bearded dragons, I'll tell you, I stumbled across Brian Barczyk, and Brian, just seeing his passion for snakes, and like honestly, like getting bit by snakes still always freaked me out. I'll admit that. Like literally up until just a few years ago, like the idea of getting bit, like it still kind of scared me. I've always been like a super safe kid, as much trouble and stuff as I got into when I was younger.
Okay, hold on. You gotta stop it right
sorry,
there.
I talk fast.
You were afraid of getting bit by snakes.
100%.
How many snake bites have you had?
Since that, literally, dude, I haven't been bit very much. I think I've only been bit by like 2 or 3 snakes that I own right now.
Are they
it doesn't
retics
happen
or
often.
ball
Most
python?
of my snakes are super well behaved. So I got bit by one of my retics when it was a baby. And then I've been bit by a couple of my ball pythons. Most of them as babies. Like most of my adults are super chill. Okay. And then on top of that, obviously ball pythons, like at least for me, like you kind of just figure out how to not get bit by them. But even now, like I'm definitely not afraid of getting bit anymore. Like that fear is definitely gone. But it's not something I like shoot for.
Marshall, you're lucky you're a moderator.
So I still open.
Go ahead. No, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Don't pay attention to what I'm doing over here. Just tell your story, man.
I'm not even looking at you. I'm tracking the comments. I don't even have video up. I could have like something on my face.
You don't need to watch this right now.
Is it getting ugly? Yeah, no, but yeah, so I don't even know where I was going with that.
I'm getting a roast. I'm getting a roast section in the comments on myself while you're telling your story. So just enjoy yourself. Stay lost in the moment, sir. So you got bit by a couple, mostly ball pythons when everything was little.
Yeah.
So Barczyk.
Yeah. So like I said, Barczyk really was the one that kind of got me re-interested in ball python. So I tell people all the time, like it was a super missed opportunity for me. So when I was in high school and got back into, I finally got my first ball python. I remember I ended up on king snake, and I was like, holy cow! Like there's so many different people selling these things. But to be completely honest, it was really weird to me at the time, as it is to most people. Like when I tell people that I get snakes through the mail, they're like, how the fuck does that work? Like that seems super cruel or like unsafe or whatever. And people don't understand it. Well, so dude, do you understand how much further I would be in this hobby if I would have like pursued a little more information back then? Because, what I ended up doing was I ended up just going to a local pet store because I'm like, it's just what I was more comfortable with. Again,
you want to see the product before you purchase it. Not saying that these animals aren't living things, but in a sense, they are the product. Like it's a
and keeping in mind that was still when the internet was relatively young. Yeah, the internet was relatively like young, and so there was a lot of scams. And I'm a paranoid person, so I was just like, I can't see sending somebody money and then mailing me a snake. So, but dude, had I not been so skeptical back then, like, who knows? Because that was literally probably around the time that like Kabilka and them were getting, we're like really getting big into it. So I kick, again, you can't, hindsight's 2020. You can't kick yourself for stuff you didn't know about, but. It's just it's like somebody saying like, oh, I wish I had invested in Microsoft or something, like that's the way I feel about the ball python market. I'm like, man, I already had the passion for this stuff. I totally would have like gone down a different path if I would have known, but Yeah, it's just funny how things work out and how it ends up coming full circle. So yeah, when I saw Barchek's channel, you know, and saw just like all the different stuff that was out there now, all the different morphs, and I started like doing research and this, that, and the other, you know, I started getting interested in them again. And then, like I said, my girlfriend at the time, she was actually the one that decided that we should get into snakes. And so she bought a pair of snakes at a local Repticon, and then man, it was all downhill from there. Like I basically took over after that. Like she kind of lost interest, and I just never looked back. She actually, when we broke up, she sold me her whole collection. And so I ended up with those, and it's funny because I actually sold her
I'm
an
not
animal
laughing at
back
your situation. I'm
not that
sorry. I
long
had to
ago.
turn off the comments, man.
John, I literally can't see your screen, so it
Good.
doesn't even matter.
Because I keep goofing off and they're making me laugh, and I had to turn off the comments for a little bit so I could focus on you.
It's all good, man. I mean, like I said, I feel like this is pretty par for the course for me. I can talk for
Pretty
hours
much.
and hours and hours.
Well, we all
having
know you can
any
talk like the
interaction.
whole thing. I don't even have to talk to you, but
Nope,
you're just
you
here
give me
to
like 6 questions.
give me, yeah, like I just need to give you like 5 questions posted and you're good.
I'm good at 100%. 100%.
So you picked up your ex's animals. How many animals do you have right now, man?
17 question mark. Well, no, technically as of today, I have 6 new ones. For those that don't know. So yeah, I've got that rack is full. So 12. Yeah, I've got 17 plus these. So 23 with the babies that I just hatched today.
Is
Assuming
that ball
everybody makes it.
pythons or is that ball pythons and retics?
That's ball pythons and retics. Ball pythons, that would make 18 ball pythons and 5 retics. Well, technically one of those belongs to Garrett Hartle. I was lucky enough to, when I went up to visit Garrett at his facility, you know, I have a pretty good relationship with him. I bought my first snake from Garrett about 2.5 years ago. So to clarify, the first snake that I personally actually bought was not a ball python when I got back into it. It was a dwarf retic. It was not just a dwarf retic. It was a pair of dwarf retics, and not just any dwarf retics. It was the world's first pair of they're the only pair in the world right now. It was the only time the pairing was ever done, and only 3 animals survived. So like the odds that these animals even exist are pretty, you know, astronomical. There was only 3 eggs that lived, and there was only a 1 male and 1 female that came out as tigers. So I have 1.1. They're 50% Solaire, so 50% dwarf. They're both visual tigers, and they're both 100% het for Rennet Ghost. So I currently have the only dwarf or super dwarf animals that have any Rennet Ghost blood in them. There is one other male. Like I said, there were 3 eggs. There is one other male out there. I don't know exactly who ended up with that male, but that male was a normal. So there's a normal 50% Solaire, 100% Rennet Ghost out there somewhere. So I don't know if that, you know, it's possible that he's breeding that to some females to make some possets and stuff, but I'm the only person right now that has a shot in the near future of hitting dwarf Rennet Ghosts. Also super tigers, which is cool. So anybody that's familiar with that gene, obviously based on the name, you guys know it traces back to Ben Rennet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a real it's an honor, but it's also like a big responsibility. You know, I feel like you know, not just for those snakes and for that project, but obviously for you know, his legacy and for the hobby as a whole. You know, I mean, everybody you know, kind of, you know, I think is familiar with what happened with that. And that, you know, again, going back to kind of what happened with, you know, my brother, like stuff like that kind of, you know, has a close place in my heart, because you know, I've been really close to some loss like that, so it sucks. But I'm super proud that Garrett would entrust me with those animals, and I'm really excited to see where I can take that project. Like, as much as I love my ball pythons, and obviously have way more ball pythons than I do retics, that realistically is the hinge pin of my collection. Is those guys.
It's hard to go full in on retics right away, though. Like, whether it's super dwarf or mainland, like just the responsibility that comes with retics, I would say is I don't know, kind of like tenfold with a ball python. Like a ball python, as long as you feed it, water it, change its substrate,
They're pretty much good.
It's gonna be
They're super
good. A
simple.
retic,
They're very forgiving.
yeah. A retic, you have to actually take the time. You have to calm it down. You have to give it enrichment. Otherwise, it's going to go stir crazy and it's going to start pushing, or it's going to, if you're not feeding it enough, it's going to start hurting itself. And like, it's a very, very, well, not very complicated animal.
It's a whole different level of animal.
Once you get it down,
but it's
exactly,
just it's a different level.
You're jumping from, I wouldn't even say a ball python's a beginner, because they definitely have their things that can test you at times, regardless of your level. But it's a very docile animal that any beginner can have. You know what I mean? But you're looking at like an intermediate to an advanced with retics, regardless of the size that they come in.
Yes. Right. Yes, it's a totally different animal. And that was the thing. You know, I think what I could, you kind of touched on like asking the question earlier on like, you know, my process and things. I think the biggest thing that I would say that I can identify about the way that I do everything, and it was actually, it's been a joke with a lot of like friends and family of mine. Like I research the hell out of stuff, like to the point of like insanity, you know, which sometimes there's a term for it, analysis paralysis, right? That's what caused that's the reality of what really caused me to wait so long to start my YouTube channel. You know, if it was up to me, I'd have started it. I wanted to start a YouTube channel in the early 2000s. I didn't know what it would have been about, but I was like, man, I'm really interested in doing this. You know, it just seems like an exciting thing, and I'm always looking for opportunity. I think I said that a lot on Antoine's podcast. I always see opportunity everywhere. And again, that's not to say that I'm all about money and stuff like that, but I'm just wired.
You kind of have to be, like, though. You have to be like with these animals. You can't. It's not like these I mean, so regardless of who you are, what your status is in life, all of us are working men and women, right? Or kids, because we do have a few under 18 in the chat tonight. So I'm trying to behave myself a little bit more than I usually would. Sure. But so we're paying everything for these animals. So if you're not looking for opportunity, if you're not looking for a way, I'm not going to say flip, because I fucking hate flippers. But if you're not looking for a way I need get your return on your investment, then you're fucking wrong.
In everything. Anything that I put money into, I am always going to try to find an angle or whatever, or see an angle or see a way that I can allow that thing to pay for itself. You know, so that you don't end up with a bunch of sunken costs. Right now, I definitely have a lot of sunken costs into snakes, and I'm okay with that. I mean, because at the end of the day, man, like literally, if I never made a nickel off of anything that I own, if I never sell these hets that I bred, you know, and again, we'll touch on that. If I never sell these hets that I made, I'm okay with that. If I keep them for the rest of their lives, I'm good with that. Now, the difference that would make is I wouldn't obviously make more. You know, I would probably stop. Or dial things back, or readjust, or reassess. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. Like, anybody that's sitting out there listening to this right now, or anybody that hears it later, like if you are somebody, because I saw something in Discord the other day where somebody was, you know, had like a het albino that they were going to breed to like a het pied, and they were asking people like what they thought of the pairing. It's like, well, I think that's a terrible idea for one, but if you already have babies from it, well, that's okay. Like, it's fine. Right. Sell them as, you know, like there's a market for them as normals, basically, and just move on. But maybe rethink it. You know, maybe you should have asked this question ahead of time. You know, we don't know what we don't know, and we've all made those mistakes of, like, you know, just getting animals that we don't really know what we're going to do with, and that's why I was hesitant to pair things, you know, for a long time. I mean, I had an inchy male that's been sitting in my rack for 2 years that I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with, but I got him because he was a nice inchy. You know, like I'd seen a lot of inches, and I was like, he's just a really good expression. I really, you know, I'm impressed with him, and maybe at some point I'll figure out what to do with him. And you know what ended up happening was I did, and so I have a pastel calico that I paired that male inchy to, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not scared anymore of making normals. I'm just not. I'm not, because this market is blowing up. A lot more people are starting to keep snakes. A lot more people are starting to keep reptiles in general. And a lot of people don't want to spend $1,000 on a snake or even $200 on a snake.
Right.
And I'm good with that, man. Like the more people that get into this hobby, the better for everybody. So I'd be more than happy to sell some young kid or even give away to a young kid a normal ball python that I produce, you know, and so that's yeah, that's something
I
that's
got a
changed
question
me
for you.
sure.
How much business
Fire
theory
away.
do you know?
How much business? What? I'm sorry, you cut out for a second.
How much business theory do you know?
Theory? So I consume a ton of business related content. My favorite one, like I don't keep it a secret at all. I tell many people that will listen that Gary Vaynerchuk is like my go-to guy, and he has been for probably 10 years, man. I mean, I've been listening to Gary Vaynerchuk for a very long time. And he's a super smart guy. You know, a lot of people write him off as like, oh, he's just a motivational speaker, or he's just really full of shit, or he's this, that, and the other. And I understand that because the reality is like there's been other people who's like stuff I've kind of like bought into, you know, that turned out to really just be nobodies that hadn't actually even done anything. But Gary's a self-made guy for the most part. I mean, he took his father's business from $3 million to like $14 or $40 million. I can't remember if it's 14 or 40. I know it's a big jump, but either way, I'm pretty sure it's 40 million. I mean, he grew his business that way. He is owner of VaynerX, VaynerMedia. He's done a ton of stuff. You know, he was an early investor in Facebook, and that's really where he made his fame and where he made his money. But he was also like one of the first people on Twitter, one of the first people on YouTube. Prior to YouTube, he was doing Wine Library TV on like some other platform. He's a very forward-thinking guy, so obviously that resonates a lot with me.
So here's why I asked that, Zach.
Yeah,
do you know how long it usually takes a business to get even? So you have your overhead cost, right?
I know
your
for most,
initial startup.
I think it's normally 3 years. Is the average,
3 years.
or yeah, and then I was gonna say I don't know if I'm confusing that with the theory of if a business lasts, like most businesses fail within 3 years, and I don't know if those are correlating concepts.
And that's because they never hit that margin to where they break even again. So a good business with a proper business plan should break even within the first 2 years. Should see a profit within the third year. I might be a little bit off on that, but I'm pretty sure. I'm like 99% sure that's what the fucking lines are, right?
Yeah.
So you got to look at yourself. You got to say, okay, you've been in this for 3 years, right? You've been, well, not breeding and all that, but you've been taking care of your animals for 3 years.
Sure.
You have one clutch that pipped today, which we're going to touch that.
Yep.
So don't fucking go away, guys. We're going to talk about his stuff. But I want to talk about other stuff around it first because suspense.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
So you have one clutch that pipped today. You have another clutch in your incubator currently, right?
No, I don't. That's
just
the only clutch I have. So I was supposed. Yeah, I thought, dude. I'm super. I'm kind of like over it now. I was really kicking myself because the reality is I may open these tubs tomorrow and there may be eggs. You know, so I have 2 other females. Actually, yeah, I have 2 other females that I was breeding that I thought were going to go. You know, I thought I had seen ovulations on. They were on basically on the same schedule. They shed the same day, and I thought that was their prelay shed, like just based on visuals. I don't have any, I don't have an ultrasound, so I'm just going on visuals and feel. And again, as an amateur, like you do the best you can. And even the experts that I've talked to, like legitimately people that have been doing this for a long time, they'll tell you like sometimes, man, like, what people say are the signs. That's not how it works out. Like Antoine, pointed that out to me when I was on his call. He's like, dude, you just don't know. Shane Kelly had a snake that never went off food, to the point that literally when that snake laid its eggs, it had a bowel movement the same time that it was laying its eggs because it was so full of food. But it was still crushing food. So it's hard to say, but I do have a pastel leopard ultra male that I was really, really, really hoping would give me some eggs this year. Just because it would have been really nice for my first season to actually be able to produce visual ultra males. Again, going back to what I said early on, ultra male is really what I kind of hung my hat on early on in the hobby, because it's just Gavin from Balls to You. He's the one that got me honestly originally really excited about it. Like his his passion for the project, talking about it, and just seeing it, I'm like, I really, really like that. And I saw that not a ton of people were working with it. Not a ton of people had done a lot of really deep stuff with it and gone really far with it. And so again, I see it as an opportunity. A lot of people discount it as something that's like, oh, it's a little too overpowering. Like it washes things out and makes what should be a great combo look just, blah. But I very much disagree with that. And I think that that's mirrored by the fact that in Europe, the Ultramel stuff is huge. Dean from I think Dean Reptiles or Dean's Reptiles in the Netherlands, he's doing some amazing things. He's already got visual Ultramel Desert Ghost cryptics with it's nuts over there. So I think we've only scratched the surface. But yeah, almost. It's just I don't know, man.
So
are
you ready to go into that clutch? I'm pretty sure everyone knows that it's a Ultramel clutch.
Yeah, well, yeah, by all means. And matter of fact, honestly, I'm more than happy to pull it out.
Whatever you want to do,
where
brother.
I can actually see my camera.
I'm
happy to at least take them out for a second.
You do what you want to do.
Yeah, I'm by all means, like anybody that's tuning in on this, I'm more than glad to kind of give a little early preview, sneak peek, whatever it is. And I don't know how good it's going to be, because like I said, I don't know who all's going to actually be able to be seen. I did go ahead and so it's a six egg clutch, and when I originally found them, only 4 eggs had pipped. And now what I ended up doing was I went ahead and I cut the 2 eggs that were not pipped out, obviously, because I was afraid that maybe like there were some complications or some issues or whatever. I now have at least seen that based on what I can tell, everybody is moving. I'm trying not to tilt this too far because I don't want eggs to roll around, but let me do this. I can at least pick eggs up before the camera. I'm perfectly okay with that. So, yeah, my first ever clutch of ball python eggs. And I do have one in here. I'm not going to dig around in here too much, but there is one in here that I did cut earlier that I'm almost 100% sure is a what they call a bazinga ball, which I didn't know when I did this pairing. That's what it's called. But apparently a Mojave Blitz, or not Blitz, excuse me. I'm not trying to piss anybody off or anything, or maybe I am. A Mojave trick. It's called a bazinga ball. So the pairing, for those that don't know,
it's a trick. God damn it! It's a trick. They're all different genes. How dare you, sir?
I know. I for the record, for people that are watching, I do not believe any of those are the same thing. I have it on pretty good authority from Justin Kabilka. He doesn't believe it either, and that's really all I needed to hear. But no, so it was a visual Mojave Ultramel to a trick female, and I am 99.9% sure that one of the snakes that I cut the egg on earlier is a visual Mojave trick, which is apparently called a bazinga ball. Like I said, I didn't know that. A few people that I talked to actually didn't know that, but I found out through Google that is what it is. So I love the name, so I'm excited about it. But that was my goal all along. So hopefully it's a female, and hopefully it's something I can hold back. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm just super excited, man.
Zach, man, where do you see yourself going? Like, are you gonna be focused on ball python breeding? Are you gonna just keep retics to keep retics? Like, so what's in store for Zach Nava?
So going back to what you were saying about like business stuff, again, I try not to be, I don't claim to be an expert in anything. Obviously I'm always looking to adjust, like even with the Ultramel stuff, I'm like, I know with ball pythons, I need to diversify beyond that. But I'm more than happy to hang my hat on that project. I'm more than happy to be the guy that if it's me that has to be the one that like champions that project, I'm cool with it. And you know what, if I end up being the guy that champions that project to my demise, totally fine with that too. Like I will go down with this shit, but I have enough faith in myself, and I have enough faith in this market, and the fact that guys like Justin Kabilka and Billy and Miguel and all those guys, Daniel Allison from are working with that project.
Come on.
That's
he got it. He forgot one. Nah.
Who else works with
Daniel
Marshall
Allison
Mendez
from Constriction Addiction. Marshall.
Yeah, well, he's 30 minutes from
Mendez.
me, which is the worst.
Yeah, I'm just giving you shit, man.
Marshall Mendez is also working it really hard. Marshall Mendez is, to me, is like the guy just because he's worked it in the clown already. But yeah, Daniel Allison obviously is the guy that sold sold Miguel his snake. So I should have mentioned him earlier on.
Depending
you know what I mean.
on so we don't know the outcome obviously from the fire, but also JT Tomlinson and Austin Hudgens were pretty deep into the Ultimate project. So
I don't pretend to know everybody that's in
it's
the
not
by any means, and that's
it's not the most popular, but it is definitely a well-versed.
It's coming up though.
Project.
Yeah, and that's what I say. It's everywhere. Everybody's everybody that I need to hear from is working it. Anybody that's not working it is fine. I totally understand because I get what people see that they don't like. But like I said, I'm like that contrarian investor, if you will, if you want to talk like investment strategies and stuff. Anywhere that people are not working with something, I'm like, oh, I want that, because I'm like, I can totally do something with that. And maybe, like I said, maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But I mean, I've got a female right now. She's cruising her cage. She's a fire yellow belly spot nose het ultra male. And she's already locked twice now with that same Mojave ultra male. So I mean, Mojave, nice. Fire, yellow belly, spot nose ultra males. And I haven't seen that. I don't think anybody's made them yet. I don't, I'm talking to Justin Kabelka. I got that female from him as a hatchling. That's his breeder male. So I don't think anybody's made them. So there's, like I said, anytime there's just a lot that hasn't been done with the project, I'm excited about it. In terms of like where you were going with the question, in 5 years, the way that I see it, man, I want to keep both. I
didn't say 5 years. I just said, where are you going? You put the 5 years on there, sir. I'm just saying.
There. Maybe.
I used to say. I said that was a bullshit question that everyone used to talk.
Maybe it's it is a bullshit question. It is a bullshit question, sir. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know. Just fucking pay me, and we'll see what happens. But but no. So in terms of like for Nava reptiles and where I want to go, man, that's a really it's an open-ended thing. I have a direction for myself, which is just to take care of the animals that I have. I want to pursue the Rent Ghost project as deeply and as far as I can. Financially, it's difficult sometimes when you can't invest in every little, every single animal that pops up. I would love to have a couple of pures and things to breed that stuff into. It's just not in the cards for me right now. But I can account for that by working into some breeding loan projects and things with some people that do have some things that I know. So my plan changes every day, man. But no, I don't intend to focus on one versus the other. When I was talking to Blake Stewart's the one that did my logo. He's a really good guy, and he's a super smart businessman. And so that relationship for me has been great. He's a good friend of mine now. And the way that I see it is almost like diversification of a portfolio in terms of investing. Like, if something was to happen with the RETIC market and all of a sudden we're not allowed to sell them anymore, which almost, it seems to almost happen.
There's a lot of states
few months
doing
these days.
Yeah.
Sure. That's a complicated marketplace. And so I would hate to sell off on my ball pythons and invest, thousands of dollars. Not that anybody shouldn't. And, it's just a matter of assessing that risk yourself, just like any other investment.
Right.
I would hate to do that and then end up, not being able to do anything with it. I would keep the animals again, at the end of the day, I'm committed to everything fully, no matter what happens. I'm committed to it. I'm going to keep things. But yeah, so I the ball pythons, like I said earlier, I hang my hat on the Rent Ghost project. That's really like the pinnacle of my collection. But that's mostly just because the reality is that's the best stuff I own. Man. It is. Everything else I own is mostly stuff you can just go out and get, with the exception of just a couple of things that I have from Justin Kabelka that were some pretty particular animals that he didn't have listed anywhere. Right. I have like a lot of single gene stuff, which is fine. They're all females, and so they also have value, and they're all still going to be of use to me. I use that loosely. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. So I don't know. I'm happy with the direction I'm headed. I am. I have considered, changing gears on what I'm investing in ball pythons and jumping into like I don't own any clown, which I know for most people sounds crazy. But but I was waiting for like Ultra Clown, which
I
Marshall has some stuff.
definitely.
So I'm hoping to.
I'm going all in over there, so you could stay
Yeah,
out of it.
I'm
I'm
hoping to
okay with
skip some
that.
steps.
I'm okay with that. You could stay out until I create some bangers.
You
I'm
there?
just kidding. I don't care. Yeah, I'm still here. I don't care who gets into what project. I think it's amazing. Regardless, everyone
Yeah.
should jump into whatever project that they want, because
Exactly.
everyone wants to say like this is a competition, or this is
It's not.
who's going to be there first, which is great. Like when you create the world's first of a snake, it's awesome. Like it's great to see that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know how many people are ready for it the next year? You know
Yeah.
how many people
Well,
like walk into each other's, like they walk into each other's breeding rooms or whatever and look through their
Right.
collection, and they're like, okay, I see where you're going. Like we're not stupid. We
And
can
then
put
they
two and
think-
two
and then they
together,
think-
man. Like,
Right. They think, oh, I have the pieces to make that same thing. And that's just it. You know,
Yeah.
people, I said it on Antoine's podcast. And again, this is not an insulting statement. It's just the facts. And anybody that disagrees, it's just the facts. It just is. Again, I've only been in this for 3 years, but I'm not, you know, I'm observant. A lot of people that are in this business are not business-minded people. And I don't claim to be a super business-minded business genius. I would never tell anybody that. But what I will tell you is that anybody that thinks there's not a lot of opportunity in this, or anybody that thinks that like Christine says, that they're going to pick up a 2-gene animal and rub it together with another 2-gene animal and make $1 million, it's probably not going to happen, because you don't understand the depth of the market and the fact that there's other people out there that have a combo that can make the same thing the next week or whatever. You know, look at the banana ball python, you know, what happened with all of that. So I think that it's if you're getting into this and you're brand new and your thought is that in your first season you're going to chase making a world's first animal, that's great, and I'm excited for you, and I wish you the best of luck. I don't think it's necessarily a realistic goal unless you just happen to know something that I don't know. Like, because you know, Justin talked about it on the Snakes and the Batman podcast with Dinker Project. You know, I love anybody that has a Dinker Project, and I think it's great, and I think it's great that they're dedicated to that. But what I think they need to understand is that like it might take them 10 years and who knows how many holdbacks and how many feeding bills for you to prove that out, and then maybe not prove it out at all, and you may end up holding 100 snakes that prove out to be literally nothing genetic. And so, you know, but that again, that's it's different strokes for different folks. It's different investment,
it's,
you know.
well, I mean, it's
ideas.
just like two that I'm looking at right now. Like honestly, I honestly plan on capping out at probably 40 to 50 ball pythons max ever.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that'll be my cap.
Yeah. Right.
I like the bigger snakes. I want to do stuff like that, but there's certain genes that, and there's dinker projects, and there's stuff that I want to play with just to see how it reacts. You know what I mean? So I'll always have like an influx and outflux of stuff that I'm bringing in and putting out.
Sure.
But
yeah,
it's I think
it's just different outlooks on collections.
Smart, man. Exactly. The smart. I'm not even going to say smart. Like,
yeah,
the person that's taking the time to research.
Anything.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm not mad about anything you're saying, brother. I'm fucking loving this. But what I'm saying is, like, most of the people, like, you put a 10-year thing on it. Like, I know a couple people that have been working dinkers.
That's what they all say.
4 to 6 years. You know what I mean? Like, and the codom, you're going to see it in 6 years. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have that.
Right.
You're going to have that growth pattern that you can prove out a codom within 6. And depending on what it does.
And it may not be a codom. And that's
exactly. That's where it starts fucking you up, and it becomes that 10-year, 15-year project.
Right.
And do you really want to spend that much money and time into it?
Yeah. Right. And based on the idea that maybe when I'm done, like, and because there's 2 schools of thought. Okay, the end goal is worth it because I can sell this snake for $100,000 at the end of it. And so 5 years of my time, like, it's worthwhile for me to be able to do that. And have all these holdbacks and then be able to sell them for, you know, well, right. Because you don't know. You don't know until you actually are there. Because again, if it doesn't prove out and then it doesn't prove out again, you know, okay, well then maybe it's recessive. So then that adds another, 2 to 3 years on.
Well, that's not even what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is,
but I love that. That's the exciting part.
yeah. But what I'm talking about is, do you have the brand? Do you have the people to talk to say, like,
yes,
because like the Sunset Clown project, right? It's a huge fucking project. The most I've ever seen a Sunset Clown, a double recessive, go for is $20K.
Yep.
But how many people are really into the Sunset project?
Full circle back to like that brings us back to what caused me to want to start my channel. Because again, going back to it, like I have these animals that are world's first that I was able to buy for what I consider to be not even what I consider to be, what Garrett Hartle to this day like is upset about having sold them to me for. And there's a whole nother layer to that sucks. I've said this publicly before. When those animals lay, I'm 100% gonna give Garrett for free one of those animals. I'm hoping that I can give him something good out of that clutch, because that money did not unfortunately even end up in his pocket. That ended up elsewhere. But I don't really want to get into the negativity of that.
No,
it's unfortunate where that money went. But
we know that
anyways,
story.
Yeah. But no, so I guess my point is that it was like I told you, I felt very responsible for having these animals. I'm like, okay, this is a huge deal. And then I thought about it. I'm like, nobody knows who the fuck I am. Like, I have to, you know what I mean? And so this project could potentially die with me if I don't do something about that. I need to make sure that and not to my benefit, to the benefit of this project, I need to make sure that people know these animals exist. I need to know. I need to make sure that people are excited about these animals, as I am, and as everyone should be, and excited about the legacy that they're going to carry on, and with what can be done. Because again, even looking at what's been done with the Rent It Goes project in mainlands, even with mainlands, they haven't been really worked with that much. Like there are combos that we don't know what's going to happen. We literally don't know. We do not have the information. So let alone, me having them. So going back to what you're saying, like I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm like, what's going to happen if I produce babies? Like nobody's going to know my name.
Right.
Nobody's going to know how I am. I'm going to end up like wholesaling these things off or whatever. And then that's going to kill the project financially because nobody at that point,
sir.
if I sold them off for nothing. Well,
I fully fucking disagree. But it's because
somebody would pick it up. But
no, it's because of who you're affiliated with. You have enough people that know you to this point that have a name that will not let that project.
They do now, but that's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying you have Garrett.
My point is that's what I'm getting at.
You have Garrett. You have Pesco. You have multiple big names that.
Yeah.
Once you
breed
Arena Goes.
Any of that.
I understand that, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
right.
Them knowing that you have that and you marketing it now.
Yeah.
Regardless of the status of your name.
Yeah.
The people that have love for that man and that project will not let that project die. Will not let that project sell to an unworthy fucking lazy piece of shit.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I took up the mantle for it. That's why I've gone off that's why I have.
Sorry guys, kids are
you're
yelling in the background.
We'll just keep talking. It's not a big deal, brother. But that's why I have kind of worked through my anxiety. And to that point, Garrett Hartle was the reason that I filmed my first video. So anybody that has seen the first video on my YouTube channel, it's about 2 minutes long. I've got like this really awful scraggly beard because it was like early on in COVID and I don't think I had shaved in like 2 months. And I had literally, when I sat down to film that video, like right here, literally in this spot is where I used to have my racks. And I would just like turn the camera on. I had just had a phone call with Garrett, like not 15 minutes prior. And I was just kind of like trying to talk through it with him, man. And he's the one that really just like got me fired up about what I had going on. Encouraged me, through. He's like, dude, like, you're going to do big things. Like, you don't see it yet. He's like, but you are, and so it's just, it's a lot of those things, man. I've had a lot of great opportunity to talk to a lot of the right people that encourage me in the right ways. And that's only because, like I said, I've just been lucky. You know, I got lucky to be in the right position at the right time to end up with those animals, let alone everything else that I have. And lucky and just truly blessed, man, to know the people that I know now. I mean, you know, it's still crazy to me that, you know, I get to talk to people like yourself even and Brian
Dude, I'm
Cusco
a fucking nobody.
and Garrett Hartle and
Like,
all those guys, you know, at all
don't,
ever.
don't throw
I'm a
my
nobody.
name
Don't
in
shut the
with
fuck
those
up.
guys. I'm a
Whatever.
fucking nobody.
But
You
what?
have no, no,
But
no, no,
John,
no. Hold on. You have babies that you have
I will
bred.
listen for a second.
You have babies that you have bred, had your females lay and hatch. I have not even done that yet, sir. You are fucking steps above. You need to quit fucking discrediting yourself and feed into your own fucking hype. You need your own fucking hype man, sir, because you're everyone's fucking hype man, which is great. I applaud that all fucking day. But you are going places. Quit fucking negating what you do. That it's
I
little.
appreciate
Nothing you have done since you have stepped here is little. And that's why you're on here fucking tonight. So
Thank you.
grow a big head for a little bit, sir. I'm not saying don't be the nice fucking loving Zach that we all know, but let your head fucking blow up a little bit, guy. You're doing some big fucking things.
I appreciate it, man. I really do. And I like I said, it's yeah. I at the end of the day, I struggle to ever own anything that's my skill or my ability. I always am going to put back on my friends and people I've been surrounded with. You know, I mean, like I said, even just as early as today, I mean, Shane Kelly, he's a really great guy. I know that, like, he has
That
told me
fucking
himself that
guy, I swear to God. No,
you know,
I'm just kidding. I love Shane.
exactly. Yeah, no. But he himself has told me, he's like, yeah, he's like, you know, not a lot of people, or like, he's like, you know, some people get, you know, irritated or frustrated by the fact that I'm always kind of like, I seem to be everywhere and I seem to get a lot of like promotion and things like that. What people don't realize is like just how good of a guy that he is, you know, like I text him today because I was, you know, I was looking at these babies, and keep in mind, so again, that pairing was a Mojave Ultramel to a trick. So all I'm going to get visually that I can see is Mojaves, tricks, normals, and some combination. And none of those have a head stamp really that's like super visually identifiable.
Does
And
the
so I'm
so
trying to
does
just
the
talk to him on the
Ultramel have
phone.
a het identifier?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, it's like any other version of albinism. You know what I mean? Like, you could maybe try to argue that, you know, the hets might be a little bit lighter, but I don't think it's consistent enough to where anybody can actually call that, you know.
Okay.
I mean, again, you know, thankfully my mail was a visual, so I already know that everything's going to be 100%. But no, not to my knowledge. It's not like a pied where, you know, because even people argue about that. You know, it's not like there's any kind of train tracks or belly
Dude,
markers or
railroad
head
tracks
stamp or
don't
anything weird
fucking prove
with the head stamp.
anything. I'm sorry. Like, you can say it and you can use it
Right, and
as a
that's what I mean.
fucking selling
That's what I mean.
theme,
Yeah.
but I have stuff that has never had pied
Sure.
fucking put
Yeah.
to it that has those railroad tracks right at the fucking cloaca. You're gonna tell me that when I put it to a pied, it's gonna
Hey,
prove out pied?
thanks, Duran. Thanks, Duran. Duran was saying I'm everybody's hype man. I try to be, man.
You
Oh,
are.
also somebody up there was asking, Novi, you were at. Novi was asking.
How
I
old
try
are
to
they?
be, man. Like I said, I do. I try to be, absolutely. Like, they were asking how old they were. I'm assuming they were talking about the rented ghost animals.
Yep.
So they will be 3 in February. So the male this year, this is the first time since I've had him since he was a baby that he's gone off food. He's never refused food. He's a retic. They don't refuse food. He's off food right now because he wants to breed. The female has is interesting because when she was born, she was absolutely a stubborn eater. Actually, Garrett had to hold on to them a little bit longer because she was not eating. We didn't know if she was going to thrive. And she ended up she would eat finally, but she took live chicks. So, you know, again, just thanks to Garrett for, you know, putting in the work, because again, I owe everything as far as those animals to him. But he put in the work to make sure she got up to weight and she was good, and he converted her over to rats even. So by the time she got to me, she was eating rats. But anyways, she's just really been turned on to food. This is the first year that I've had her that she started kind of pushing a little bit. And again, that it was partially because she is still in too small of an enclosure. I will absolutely own that. Anybody that wants to talk shit to me about it, you're absolutely right. You know, I ordered my animal plastics
part of
cages
it, man.
like this behind me. Yeah,
That's part of it.
I will tell anybody that's listening that's
Like,
new, please take my advice. Order things way before you need them. At least when it comes to retics, order your giant freaking cages like a year before you think you actually have to have them.
if you're getting a fucking mainland retic, by the time it's a year old, you better have that fucking full enclosure on order because it's about to hit its growth spurt and it's going to take off.
Yes. Yep. And that's exactly what happened to
I'm
me.
dealing with that right now.
I try to research and I try to research and educate myself on everything. And I knew that was the case. Like I knew that that especially the female, you know, needed a 6-foot enclosure. And COVID kind of fucked it up, you know, because financially just things kind of went to shit. But
understood.
you know, but that's not an excuse. You know, like realistically, you have to have a plan in place for this stuff. I mean, these are living animals. They rely only on me. They don't have a choice but for me to take care of them. And so I feel terrible that it's not like she's in some, like, she's not like in a fucking FB40. She's in a 70 series tub and she fits in there perfectly fine and she doesn't push often and it's generally only for food. But anyways, what I came back to is that I spoke with Garrett about kind of their behavior in terms of the male and with her. And he's like, honestly, Zach, he's like, Solaire, because they're Solaires, for those that don't know, Solaires are like the largest of the localities in terms of dwarfs. They tend to range between like 10 and 13 feet. I think, you know, Garrett's got a breeder female that if you guys check out my social media, I've got a picture of her. She looks super small in that picture, but she's about a 10-foot female. She's beautiful. But yeah, so 10 to 13 feet. I'm not sure where she's going to, you know, my girl's going to max out at being a 50%, but they're the largest locality. But he was telling me that, you know, because they're a little bit bigger, he's like, a lot of times, like at 2 and 8 months, like 2.5 to 3 years, he's like, you could try to pair them and just kind of see what happens. You know, it's like, it's health wise, it's not going to hurt the female. He's like, you know, the thing about, you know, retics and is that, especially with retics, he's like, if she's not ready to go, she ain't going to go. Like, she's going to let the male know I'm not interested. He's like, if they don't lock, like, she's going to, you know, it's going to be because she's 100% not ready. And she's going to know that she's not ready. It's just like the theory that, you know, a lot of people, like, as a matter of fact, I was just talking to somebody about it recently. So I had a female, that past calico female, ball python. She had hit the 1,000-gram wall. She was refusing feed, not wanting to eat, things like that. And so I was talking to a couple other breeders and they're like, you know, they're like, honestly, you could try to pair her. And I'm like, what? Like, she's too small. She's only like 1,000 grams. Like, she had hit 1,100 at one point. And they were like, look, just pair her and see what happens. They're like, what's going to happen? They're like, listen, think about it. In the wild, obviously, and I'm aware of this. I'm not stupid, but it's just, you know, you worry. I'm paranoid. I'm early in this. They're like, just pair her. They're like, what's going to happen is either she's not going to be interested, they're not going to lock, or they're like, she's going to lock with him and she's going to start pounding food. So I'm like, okay. So I did. So that's when, like I was saying, I put that inchy male in that I've had for 2 years and wasn't planning on pairing him at all. And I paired him, and guess what? Within literally like 4 hours, they were locked up. Granted, keep in mind, this male's never bred before. This female's never bred before, but she knew that she was ready. That's why she was off food. She was looking for a male.
And that's
and
what
so she paired up
fucking
with within like a
kickstarted
few
my
hours.
GHA clown project right there.
Yep. And guess
No,
what? She smashed a medium rat the very next day. The very next day, smashed a medium rat. I mean, flew out of the tub. It's the first time in months that girl's flown out of the tub for food. She's normally like one of my pickiest eaters, and she's beautiful. I mean, she's a beautiful calico. And the thing is, I love the inchy calico stuff. I don't know if anybody's seen like all the crazy like Orange Dream inchy calico and like the super pastel inchy calico stuff. They're just gorgeous. It's one of those it's a really, really interesting project in terms of incomplete dominant stuff. There's some great combos that can come from it, and inchy goes well with anything. And I'm a big fan of calico. Colors. Yeah, well, and I do like bright colors.
I like that dark stuff.
I like the dark stuff because the dark stuff brings some contrast back. You can't go all bright, because I think that's what happened in like, you know, like the mid 2000s. I think that's mid early 2000s, like 2010 or so. I think that's what happened, where everybody's producing just yellow snakes. And I'm still seeing a lot of that, you know.
You see a shit ton of it, and some
Mm-hmm.
of it's really nice because they're learning how to bring that contrast back, and some of it's I'm tired of yellow fucking snakes.
Yes. You know, like even I'll admit, even the visual Desert Ghost Ultramel Cryptic, and I think there was another gene in there that I saw. I'm like, that's a beautiful animal. It's a beautiful animal, but I'm like, it's also just kind of a yellow snake. Like, but it's a powerhouse. So, you know, I mean, it's, you know, there's different views. Like, I don't know if anybody saw Brian Cusco's video that he dropped today, with the animal he got from Kabilka, where he was saying, look, like, visually stunning, it's not in terms of all the genes that are in there. He hasn't announced the genes that are in there. I'm not going to talk about the genes that are in there because I do know. If you want to know, join his Patreon and you'll find out. Because, you know, we do get some of that behind the scenes info. But the point was is that he's like, this is he's like,
you guys
this
gonna
is my
make me
breeder
get
male.
started on that shit. And you guys brought me
What,
in
Patreon?
it. Yes, Patreon and
Dude,
Discord and all that because I haven't looked at it. I haven't looked at it. Like, I honestly haven't.
No seriousness, let's
and
go hard
like,
in it because I'm with you. I'm super passionate about it. I want to talk about it.
Fucking Cusco has been pushing Patreon because of Garrett for so long, man. And it took unbelievable.
No.
Okay,
hang on.
From what I understood,
Cusco had his Patreon first.
No, he did, but it was from Garrett saying, "Hey, you should probably start a Patreon. You have the following."
Yeah, you know, you're right. Well, so well, you know, you finish your thought. I've talked enough. I want to hear from you, and then we'll talk
what I'm
about it.
saying
Like I said,
is, like,
I'm super passionate about this.
Cusco's had Patreon for what is it? 2 years now, almost.
At least 2 years, I was going to say, because it wasn't right when I got into things, but it was early on. Yeah.
It took 2 years, and I love Cusco, man. Like, if you don't know,
oh sure,
that's my man crush. That's my fucking man crush. I'll just put it out there. Like, me going to his house, like,
mine too.
You got to understand, like, so there's a video that's like a year and a half old, right, of me handling that pied retic. We talked about it fucking last week, right?
Yeah.
And that video happened because I used to drive semis, right?
Yeah.
And I drove a semi from fucking Laredo, Texas to Pomona, California. Got a rental car from the airport at Pomona.
Yeah.
Drove I drove 2 hours. I had lunch with Adam Hableeb from Beach Bum Exotics for his birthday.
Yeah.
We went to the pier. We went to the pier. We had some tacos. We smashed some fucking beers. I did some fucking drone footage over the ocean because I suck at drones. And then I'm hitting up Cusco and I was like, hey, man, I got this rental. I don't fly out till tomorrow. Let's fucking hit it. I drive up another 2 hours. I get to his house as it's getting dark. And we fucking go down into the snake room, man. And we're just hanging out, having a good time. We start cleaning retics because I love retics. Like, and we were going to get into all kinds of stuff. And I was just like, dude, I got to fuck with the retics. Like, I have baby retics here. Like, none of my retics are older than a year and a couple of months. You know what I mean? Like, all my shit's still small. Yeah. They're like 5 to 6 feet long, but they ain't got no girth to them. Like, they're babies.
Right.
And so I start handling Betsy Ross and Halo, and he looks at me when we get to Grumpy because Grumpy has fucking destroyed her goddamn cage. And he's like, do you want to do it? Right. You don't have to, but do you want to do it? I was like, has anyone fucking held her on camera? And he's like, no. And I was like, I'm going to fucking do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be the first person to hold her on camera. And then right before I do this, like, we do fuck, that's beautiful, man. Right before I get started, that's the one from Garrett?
Yeah, this is Garrett's holdback male.
Yeah, that thing's fucking gorgeous, man.
He's amazing.
Pulled me out of my story.
So I wish you could see how yellow his head is. Sorry.
We get there, and I love pied retics, man. Like, I have a fucking hard on for pies. Like, the first day that I talked to Garrett, I said, the day that you figure out how to get pied into a high percentage super dwarf, you're taking all my money.
Let's go. Yep.
Right. I've been on a waiting list for a pied retic high percentage super dwarf for the last 3 fucking years. And I'm telling you right now, I'm taking out a fucking second mortgage on my house wherever I live for that fucking snake. That snake will be my pinnacle animal. But so I deal with Grumpy, and anyone that's watched Cusco's videos knows Grumpy is a fucking bitch.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like I straight karate chop that poor snake in the throat because she was gonna get me. Like her strike that she had before I hit her in that video was aimed right at my shoulder. She had me. Yeah. And the only thing that saved me was the fact that I fucking hit her right in the neck. And Garrett reached out to me afterwards and was like, "Hey man, I've never seen someone handle her so gentle." And I was like, "The fuck are you talking about? I just hit your snake."
Like I thought you were gonna message me pissed off.
Like I thought you were gonna be pissed, dude. Like you owe me the fucking $3,000 that she's worth. You just fucked up my snake.
Right. Yeah.
Or whatever. I said 3,000, guys. That's a low figure. I would just threw a fucking number out there.
Yeah, at the time, especially, I don't know what that animal was probably worth, and let alone the potential, for the babies. You know what I mean? You have to factor in, like, when an animal
the babies
reaches
of retics are already fucking what, 1,500.
Yeah, I mean, for pied stuff, I'm sure it's at least. I'm not super familiar with mainland pricing, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Snooty. I have nothing but super dwarf. No, I'm just playing. It's all good. I just don't look at
I don't look at mainland pricing. I just don't.
It's all good, man. I have a shit ton of mainland stuff, but it's stuff that I really like. And it's funny because I say I fucking hate orange and yellow snakes.
Fine,
but all of my retic stuff has orange and yellow in it. It is what it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so dude, we were trying to go down the line of like talking about Patreon and stuff, and you were talking, and so that's where we started talking about Cusco and Garrett. So, where were we going with this?
So what?
If you don't make your point, I will.
So I was saying, like, the only thing that got me on there and finally got me after 2 years to subscribe is Unbelievables, because I love that family. They've been like honestly, their snakes are 3/4. Or not 3/4, probably like 2/3 of my ball pythons in my collection.
Okay.
But what push or what drive do you see in Patreon, and what value do you really see coming to the consumer in Patreon and Discord?
So to me, all right, so first of all, I'm a really big proponent, and I always have been, even before I was into reptiles, of vote with your dollar in everything, in literally everything. And I think a lot of that comes from my dad. Like when I was younger, like if there was an actor or an actress or somebody that stood for something that he didn't believe in, he'd be like, no, even if it was on television, like he spent zero money to see them, he would change the channel. He's like, I vote with my dollar. I vote with, my stance on things, like in everything, and so that makes a lot of sense to me. And so I've carried that into basically everything that I do. If there's companies that don't support the way that they do business, I'm not going to trash them publicly or whatever. I'm just going to vote with my dollar by not spending money there. The value that I would say that is involved in Patreon is entirely up to the individual, because I agree. And Garrett, and in fact, Garrett says this all the time. Garrett says about his, because he now has a Patreon, obviously, and he will tell you, he's like, I don't understand what it's for. He's like, people want to pay me money for what? I don't understand. But here's the thing. That's not what it's about. It's the consumer, going back to kind of like Gary Vaynerchuk stuff. The market decides the value on everything. Okay. So Ultramel, for example, if the market decides that Ultramel is not good, then that's the facts. It doesn't matter how I feel about it. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. If the overall market decides that Ultramel is not of value, then guess what? Ultramel is not of value, period. End of story. And so I think that it's the same way with Patreon. So the beauty of Patreon is that, John, it's whatever the creator makes it be. So, you know, it depends entirely on again, just what value do you take from it. So with Garrett, and I'll matter of fact, I'll skip Garrett's for now because that was the latest one that I subscribed to. Cusco's Patreon was the first Patreon I ever saw that I felt was worth any value to me. I could be, and prior to Cusco, I was in your shoes, man. I'm like, who in the hell would pay these people money for basically nothing, right? Like it seems insane until I did. And what I'll tell you, so matter of fact, Cusco called me out on this. At one point, you know, I was like one of Cusco's original Patreon members, and I was for a long time. I mean, you can ask him this himself.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of his early Patreon members.
No,
I
I've
think I was
seen the
at, like,
name pop up, and that's why when I
Yeah.
finally put a face to it, I was like, "Fuck, I've never seen this guy. What the fuck's going on?"
Right. Well, the thing is that the whole time that I was on his Patreon, every Tuesday night I worked at the bar. So those that don't know, I was a bartender forever. I'm changing careers now to the other side of the business. I'll be a beer and wine sales rep selling to bars. Anyways, so I was never able to make any of the Zoom calls. So that was why, in all seriousness, I dialed back my at one point I had canceled my Patreon membership with him. And he asked me, so literally, John, I'm not kidding, the first time I made a Zoom call with him, first night that I was ever able to make the Zoom call was during COVID. And he's like, dude, he's like, I remember, he's like, you had canceled and then like you re-upped it and then you like canceled again. He's like, you were kind of off and on. He's like, and I just honestly, he's like, I kind of like couldn't help take it personal. Like I didn't know if like I had done something to upset you. And the thing is that's where like it clicked for me that I was seeing his Patreon for me, right? Because I wasn't getting anything back from it. I was seeing it as like a Netflix subscription when there's nothing on Netflix you want to watch.
Right.
It's the same thing. Like I wasn't getting any value personally because the value for me would have been like access to him and his community. And because they were doing all of their calls on Tuesdays, well, I can't make those calls. And this was pre-Discord. Discord didn't exist at the time. So I'm like, okay, well, why am I spending this money? Like I don't get to interact with these people. Like there's nothing I can do. So I canceled it. And again, this is like all 100% true, verifiable with him until COVID. And when COVID happened, I resubscribed because I'm like, you know what? Like I saw what I think it might have been right when he started Discord, or it may have been a little bit earlier, but I jumped back in with it and I made a meeting, and it's been, and John, that's why you and I are having this conversation now.
Right.
Absolutely. The only reason, like Aurora's in the comments right now, you know, saying Discord fam, like literally, dude, during COVID, especially like the Discord community that I've had in Cusco's group specifically initially, because I'm also in Garrett's, and there's an amazing group of people over there as well. Duran's in there, and then matter of fact, Duran is now also in Cusco's Discord, thanks to just the relationship that he and I have through that. But I see it as a networking opportunity, man. You know, so it's going to mean different things for everybody. There's people that are in Cusco's Discord and Garrett's Discord for different reasons than I am. I use it largely for networking. I use it largely for building myself as a brand, for being able to talk to people about the fact that, hey, I have the world's only pair of Rennet Ghost, you know, Het Rennet Ghost dwarfs. Like if you're interested in that, let's talk. And that's a very direct way for me to reach out to people that are 100% going to be interested in that. You know what I mean? It's like targeted marketing, only the best way possible in that it's more personal. And that's so much, that's the way marketing should be, man. So like I was having a conversation earlier today about somebody about Instagram. They're like, you know, because I was telling them about growth, you know, and we were talking about it. You know, and I realized, you know, through the conversation that the way that I was talking, it sounded like I was about the numbers. They're like, well, I'm really not about the numbers. I'm like, dude, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not either. The way that I want to operate is I want to build a community of friends. I don't want to build a community of followers. I want to build a community of friends. Whether that means I have 400 friends that follow me, which I think I'm at like 395 or something like that right now. Whether that means I have 400 friends that follow me or 400 followers follow me. I'd rather have 395 friends that follow me and never go above that. Because that means a lot more to me, and it's a lot more interaction. You know, it's people that I actually interact with on a daily basis. Like literally almost all 400 people that are followers of mine on Instagram are people that I interact with, and that's the way that it should be. I'm trying to build a community around myself.
That's a great fucking comment.
Go ahead,
I like the way you put that because I've talked to a lot of people, And what I hear from damn near everybody is once you hit a certain level, a lot of your followers that felt like they were at a certain level in your life, you know what I mean? Like they've always supported you. You show that support back, but a lot of followers eventually, like once you hit multi-thousands of people that you're reaching out to on a regular basis, it's hard to fucking have that one-on-one interaction or that small group interaction that everyone initially joined you for, right?
And that's where Patreon comes in.
That's kind of where this all needs to wrap back into is you understand, like it's not that we don't love each one of our subscribers. Like I have 800 and some subscribers. I can tell you damn near every single person's name.
Yep.
I can tell you damn near
every person's comment.
Yeah. I reply to every person's comment. I can tell you damn near what every single person has in their collection or what their biggest focus is. It's not that I don't have that connection with my subscribers. It's that I don't have so many hours time,
in the day.
Man.
So many hours in the day, John.
Yeah. I don't have time to give that personal level that every single person wants.
So I'll tell you, I had a very personal and long conversation with somebody recently that has they have 15,000 subscribers on Instagram. And you know, that was the biggest thing for me was like, you know, I've held myself back to an extent. I'm not gonna say that's the only thing that stopped me from having more followers or whatever, but I've held myself back to an extent in the sense that, like, I'm sorry, but like even now with only 400 subscribers, every person that follows me, I can't follow them back, and part of that is because first of all, I don't have the time to interact with them the way that I would want to if it's somebody that I'm following. But the other side of it is like I'm a very ADD person. I have my own like anxiety issues, you know, just like I have my own like mental health problems, right? And part of that is that even with Discord, man, I'm only in 4 Discord groups. I struggle a lot with the fact that I can't keep up with every single comment in even those Discords and stuff.
Can you explain what Discord is?
Discord is So Daily Trans Girl, Discord is like a personalized chat where it's like a chat room basically, but you have to get an invite to it. And then beyond that, like it breaks down to like there's video channels. So like for Garrett's Discord, you know, if you're on his Patreon, you can get access to his Discord. That's where we do our calls every week. We have private calls that are only for people in his Patreon, which is amazing. Like I said, in all seriousness, like for a very small amount of money, you can get access to have a literal phone call, like a video conference where you get to ask directly questions to Garrett Hartle. That has a lot of value to me. You know, I pay Garrett $30 a month, literally just to have access to his, and that's my level of commitment. You don't have to pay that much. I don't remember what his lowest tier is. Like Brian's lowest tier is like $3 a month, and that gets. And I think Garrett has something similar that's like $5 or $10. But every other week, Garrett does a video call with all of us, and we all get a chance to ask him questions, face to face, 1-on-1. And I will pay that. It's like this. Okay. So Garrett, again, has only as many hours in the day as we all do. And I'll tell you, having been to his facility and hung out with him personally, he works every minute of every day to his own detriment. Like he does not stop. And he still is always every day going to disappoint somebody by not getting back to them. Because I've had people complain to me that he doesn't reply. But I've had the same complaint about people like Justin Gavelka and a lot of other big names in the industry.
But you know
there's
what?
only so many hours and there's only so many people we can get back to. Go ahead.
I've been talking with Garrett for years, obviously, because of my really good friend Kim, right? And Kim's an employee there too. And obviously, as soon as I said, hey, I want anything to do in the RETIC community, she said, this is the only place to go, right? So me and Garrett have been in talks. I have yet to purchase any animal from him, which probably pisses him off, which I understand. He has that right. Talking to me for 2 fucking...
I promise you it doesn't.
It probably doesn't, because he still sells his animals. But I'm saying, like, he has a right to be fucking furious. But the man takes the time to literally answer questions to people that don't spend any money with him for years. I'm going to say that right now. And it makes me feel like a piece
John,
of shit for it.
That's what.
But
John, that's how I ended up with these world's first animals. I was bugging him for months, being indecisive about what I wanted, looking for the perfect project to dive into, because I had money to spend. And he knew I had money to spend, and he was patient as fuck with me. And I promise you, this is exactly. I'm not saying that he sees you as like an opportunity for somebody that's going to spend money, but what people don't understand about him is he's looking for the perfect home for every snake he produces.
Mm-hmm. And what I'll say with that is like,
he's not going to sell you that animal.
Exactly.
So he'll keep letting you wait.
What I love about him though, and what you said earlier, is like people getting upset about him not fucking responding to you within 10 minutes on fucking Facebook or Instagram or whatever fucking platform that you chose.
Yeah.
You realize that that guy has a family, right? You realize that that guy has kids. He has a life outside of snakes. He works snakes all day and he still takes the time. Like there's times where I text him on Facebook and I'll get a reply within 2 minutes. And there's times where I text him on Facebook and I'll get a reply within a fucking 24-hour period, you know, or 2 weeks or whatever, you know what I mean? And I'm not mad about that shit because this guy is pouring everything that he has into everything that he does. And
but that's
all of us should be like that. And that's where you're doing it right, because you're following the people that pursue passion versus just a fucking dollar sign.
Yeah.
And yes, they're doing stuff to set themselves up.
It allows you to skip to the line. It allows you to skip the line. But like I said, for me, it was more about marketing. And I know there's a lot of people in his group that are feeling the same way. You know, because this, especially with Dwarfs and Super Dwarfs, it is a small group. It's a small group in at least in the sense of people that are doing it the right way. And everybody, and I know that everybody that is spending the money for Garrett's Patreon, especially at the level that some people are, I know that those are people that are trying to do everything the right way. And so those are people that if they produce snakes tomorrow, I wouldn't hesitate to spend money with. And I think that goes vice versa. Like, I think that when these snakes finally do breed and they finally do lay for me, I'm going to have zero issue selling them on, but not just selling them on to like really great homes where I know the bloodlines will be preserved and understood, and everything else. And so, like you said, it's just about understanding that people have other things going on with their time. And the Patreon stuff just allows people to dedicate their time to people that are dedicated to them. You know, like I said, it's not like and nobody's asking you to pay $100 a month to be able to talk to Garrett Hartle. What they are saying is that, hey, if you're committed to this, if you're committed to this project, if you're committed to this industry, and you're willing to spend a few bucks a month, I will prioritize you. And that's the way that Garrett treated me. I mean, again, I'm holding in my hands an animal that is Garrett's holdback, that when I was up there visiting him, he asked me my opinion on, hey, I only have 2 of these left. Somebody wants to buy one of them. Which one should I sell? Which one should I keep? And this is the one that he and I talked about him keeping. And then the very next day, as I'm leaving to drive back to Charlotte, he goes, hey, Rob, prep that Tom Belongin mail to ship. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, you're going to go ahead and take that home. He's like, I want you to take that home. I want you to raise it up. I want you to enjoy it. He's like, I want you to have a pure animal in your collection. And obviously, I'm not stupid. I know that Garrett has his own intentions. Like anybody that's listening that knows anything, obviously, is fully aware that it's like, well, yeah, you have to house that snake and feed it and everything else. Of course,
it's a future breeder loan. It's fine.
Yeah. What I would love to do with this is I would love to pair him to my female tiger 100% het rennet ghost and make some 25% rennet ghost, 50% Tom Belongin tiger.
It's like people thought about this in the future.
It's weird, right? And again, Garrett has, I'm being serious. Garrett didn't tell me that, but I know that's probably where he's thinking. And I'm perfectly okay with that. Cause I'm telling you right now, Tom Belongin, this locality is going to blow up. I had somebody on the last live stream. They were asking me if this was a platinum. This is not a platinum. This snake is that yellow, and it's that yellow all the time. And this is a 100% pure locality Tom Belongin from pure locality parents, directly from Garrett Hartle. I mean, this is a legit snake, and I'm a big fan of the Solaire localities. This thing has me questioning Solaire as my favorite. I'm pretty sure I'm converted that Tom Belong is now my favorite. But yeah, so again, the Patreon thing is it's whatever you make it. Because I will also say there are some people out there that have some Patreons and have had some Patreons for a long time that are offering zero, and I mean zero. I mean less than zero. You're taking money from people for what they're getting. So it's just about building value. Garrett does a really great job. Brian Cusco does a phenomenal job. I have actually said it in the past. I think that Brian Cusco, in my opinion, I think he charges too little for the amount of value that I have personally gotten from his stuff, just because of the relationships I've been able to build. And like, dude, you know, things that he's not required to do. Like, he gave me a shout out on his YouTube channel. When I started my YouTube channel, Brian Cusco highlighted me on a video of his. Like, that made my head explode, because at the time, like I was telling you before, I kind of saw him as like this person in the hobby that was like a celebrity, right? And I will never be able to talk to this
Right.
person. I'll never have any interaction with this person, but I would like to support him, so I'll pay this money for his Patreon. And that was it. We interacted a couple times through Messenger, but it wasn't like, you know, it was nothing serious. Like, I put him on a pedestal for a very long time, and I still do. But then, like I said, when I started my YouTube channel, he's like, "Hey, Zach, you can ask." Aurora or somebody was on the call. The first call that I jumped on was right after I had posted my first YouTube video. He goes, "Zach, I saw your video you posted today." I said, "Bullshit! You didn't see my video. You're lying." And I was 100% serious. I thought he was. I'm like, somebody fucking told you that I posted a video, and you're like trying to hype me up. No, he legitimately watched the first shitty half-ass video that I put out, and was like hyped for me about it. And then went on to, like I said, on his platform of like 25,000 subscribers or whatever, put me out there for no reason. I didn't pay him to do that. He's just a good person, you know?
You know how many
And that was
times?
huge for me.
Oh, I love that you
I have
said that.
chills
You
just
know
talking about it.
how
It's
many
just crazy.
times that man. So if you've followed my career at all, those that are watching, I
Mm-hmm.
have had my ups and downs. Obviously, I definitely struggle with some PTSD, anxiety, depression, and some other
Yeah.
shit.
Yep.
And there's
We're on
times
the
where
same
I
page
just
with that shit,
said,
brother.
yeah, there's times where I just said, fuck it. I don't give two fucks about YouTube or anything else. And
Yeah.
the first person to ever reach out anytime that I do that, like anytime that I take a break, if I take a break longer than 2 weeks, I get a message from fucking Brian saying, "Hey, dude, what's going on? You gonna
You
start
good?
up again, or are you gonna
Yeah.
fucking quit, or you gonna be you? Like,
Yep.
let's get back in gear, do your
Yep.
shit." And that's what I love about him,
Yep.
man. Like
He's
he's a
good,
no
man.
nonsense guy
Yeah.
that actually fucking cares about people.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I was gonna say, is that he's not just that dude that's just like breaking your balls about something. Like, he legitimately cares. And on top of that, that's his way of like touching base and be like, "Hey, man, you good? Like, are you, in other words, like, are you in a dark place? You need anything? Can we talk about something?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's his way of extending the olive branch, because he understands that, you know, like you were saying, like the mental illness side of stuff and all that, and he legitimately wants to make sure that you're good. And Garrett's the same way, dude. Like, going through COVID and all this stuff, like, you know, Garrett knew that I was super stressed with money and things like this, and early on in COVID, like, everything was cool for me for a while. And I had actually bought an animal like very early on from him. And like, he, again, he touched base, and like I said, invited me up to his facility. I went up there and visited him. Like, again, this is while COVID was going on. Went up to his facility and was able to visit. He's like, "Dude, film whatever you want. Like, this is like absolutely, like, literally anything." I'm like, "Are you sure? Like, are there any tubs I need to like blur out people's names?" And he's like, "Dude, whatever you want. Like, how many times I got to tell you? Like, you film whatever you want. You tell me what you want to do over here, and we'll do it." He literally kind of gave me the keys to the castle, and just like gave me free reign to do anything. And unfortunately, like, I feel like I squandered that opportunity because I was so uncomfortable. Because again, like, this was like the first time again for me to meet him in person. I still haven't met Cusco in person, and I'm still gonna completely freak out. But it's just like I said,
It's
they are
okay to
great
fangirl, man.
people.
It's okay to fangirl.
Oh, dude, I do it every day. We've had this conversation. I've had this conversation with other people. Like I said, I still fangirl over Justin Kabilka. Even though as many times as I've talked to him on the phone, and I've talked to him through text, and like he requested to be my friend on Facebook. I was like, this isn't right. Like, so like, things like that, like Chase, and Chase, the same thing. Like Chase is just such a good guy. And, Chase commented today on me having my first clutch of snakes. And he was like, dude, congrats. I'm so excited for you. And I'm like, why the fuck does Chase Patton give a fuck about me having produced my first clutch of snakes? That's like a clutch of snakes that, they could have.
We're all just fucking human, man.
Like,
and that's what you got to realize. That's why I said
and
earlier,
that's just it.
you need to blow your own fucking head up
realize
sometimes. Well, that was bad wording,
I've said it
but
about Justin.
you need to let that
good,
ego fucking blow up.
Yeah, because
we're all
people,
human.
I've said it about Kabilka a lot. People treat him like with kid gloves. They're like, they treat him like he's a robot, or like some celebrity. And I just thought, like I said, when I met him in Arlington, I just talked to him like I was anybody else. And you could almost see his shoulders drop, because it's like he's all day, obviously he's been talking to people that are fans of his, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. And had I met him just early on, like out of the blue, I would have done the same thing. But when you walk up and just have a normal conversation with him, it's like you get a totally different person. He's a lot more candid. I don't know if everybody saw the stand-up video that he did. Dude, everybody in this hobby is very normal. And I think that's my favorite thing about this hobby. And my favorite thing that I've realized now that I'm a lot more active in it is that literally I have access to everyone. There's not a soul in this hobby, no matter how big they are, that I can't via email or phone reach out to tomorrow. And every single one of them would be at least willing to have a phone conversation with me. Not necessarily some bullshit for social media or whatever, but that's the selfish side of things, right? Me personally, they would have one-on-one. I could absolutely reach out to them and have a phone call. And I don't care, even people I've never spoken with. And that's the great thing about this hobby, man. As big as it is, the biggest names in this hobby that really matter are 100% accessible. And it's just that's not just this hobby. I mean, that's the world, just based on the way that things work these days. It's just a matter of, like you said, treating people like they're normal, dude. Treating people like they're normal and just talking. I love that part of it. I guess that's the bartender in me. I don't know. It took me a long time to realize that I just love to talk to people. Even if you and I had nothing to do with snakes and stuff like that, I could absolutely have a phone call conversation with you, or a call like this, or a video like this for.
We both kind of have the same mindset, though. Don't say 5 hours. Don't make me go there. I'll get in fucking trouble. If I ever do another fucking Sean Bradley, my wife might kill me. But that is like my greatest video ever. But if I ever did that again, my wife would fucking lose her shit. Like,
yeah. Admittedly, even I haven't seen the whole thing. I've seen a lot of it. I haven't watched the whole thing. I know it's long.
I've never seen the whole thing. I'm pretty sure I fell asleep during part of it. Not that Sean's fucking boring. Like, everything that he puts out is fucking gold, but it was just like, it was so long, and I was so unused to doing something like that it fucking took me. And I'll be honest, like, most of the time when you see me on these, I'm fucking 2-3 beers deep. I drank 1 beer that entire fucking interview. And that entire interview
you were just
went
enamored, just like really into the conversation.
Dude, I didn't know what to do. And that's what I went. Like, I used to put people on that pedestal, like we were talking about, right? And Brian fucking gave the goddamn he threw the fish hook, you know what I mean? Like, he baited me like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And I love him for it. I honestly do. Like, but Brian was like, you won't go 5 hours.
Chris Eaton said it really well. Brian's good about getting people to let their guard down too, and just like lean into shit, man. Lean into it. That's
he got me on that interview.
Let's lean into it.
10 minutes in, he got me on that interview, and he was like, you won't go 5 hours. And I was like, all right, motherfucker. 5 hours, it's on. And I literally looked at Sean and was like, are you willing? Like, if you're willing to go 5 hours, I'll fucking do 5 hours.
Well, that's that fucking like military, like competition fucking brain that you're wired with.
You're not gonna fucking beat me.
Oh, I can't do something? Fuck you. I got this shit.
Exactly.
Son. I'm gonna fucking crush it. Absolutely.
And
100%, dude.
Like, afterwards, like Sean literally yelled at me during that podcast, and he's like, I'm no different than any fucking other person. The only difference is the fact that he was in the fucking industry for 20 fucking years.
Right. Right. And so people obviously, people put people like that on a pedestal, and it's not that they shouldn't be or whatever.
Because
It's
it
just
doesn't happen.
it's a respect thing. Yeah, it's just a respect thing, because but at the end of the day, like again, you're just talking to another person. As much as I get excited to talk to these people, I mean, hell, like I was like super stoked that there was the other night. So Bradley and Brian obviously had flown out and were hanging out at the Reptarium, right? Well, I'm awake at all freaking weird hours of the night, and Cusco was on Instagram. I don't remember exactly how it happened. I think I like reacted to something he had posted or whatever from the airport, and he's like, "Hey man, are you up?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I ended up on a freaking video call with Cusco and Bradley from the airport while they were like trying to fly back from
When Cusco stole the
Detroit
fucking
for like an
keys.
hour. Yes, literally right after that. Right after that. Right after that.
Awesome.
And it was just like it was cool because again, like we were just chatting, because we're at this point we're just friends. We're all just buddies, and we're just chatting about whatever. And but it was one of those moments like I got off the call afterwards and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like I'm like 2 years ago, I'm watching this dude on YouTube thinking like, oh wow, like it's really cool what he does, it would be amazing to live a life like that, blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, like I just got off the phone with this person. Like I think I told you, my ex like bought that snake back. Like she and I really don't have literally any conversation whatsoever for obvious reasons, but I couldn't help myself but like kind of brag, like, dude, like you would never believe like all of the relationships that I've built over the last like year or two, like since you've talked to me, like I'm like, dude, I just like fucking had a phone call with Brian Cusco and like this, that, and the other thing. Like Brian Barczyk fucking like acknowledged me on his damn podcast. Like I couldn't believe that. Like just fucking all this crazy shit. And she was like,
Fucking killing it, man.
what? It was great, but again, it's not me. It's literally, it is in the sense that, but it's all it is that it's just validation from other people though. Like I said, as much as it's me, as much as it is me, and I will own that. I'm good with people. And you know what I mean? Like I have my strengths. I'm good at conversation. I can talk to anybody. I'm super positive. I love everyone and all of that. At the end of the day, like anything and everything that I've done comes down to the opportunities that other people have set out for me. And I think that's everything, dude. I think that's everything. And I think that's all of us. And anybody that thinks otherwise is just not seeing things the right way. And anybody that thinks otherwise, like good on you. Like if you're that confident in yourself that you think that you've done everything on your own and you think that you can just say that nobody's ever helped you and nobody's ever, given you a leg up or you've never been in a situation that's giving you a leg up, like you're probably lying to yourself, but that's fine. Like if you're that confident,
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely.
But I kind of fucking doubt it. And there's nothing
Dude,
wrong with it either way. Like, I'm
you
not
don't
mad
go.
at you, but
So it's like the saying, man. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that saying's not just because that person gives you the door in. It's because if you're not willing to fucking learn for yourself and you're not willing to get mentored and you're not willing to reach out to create those pathways and to get those doors opened,
yes,
you're not going to ever fucking make it.
Yes. Right.
Because if you're not willing to put yourself out there, you just closed all your own fucking doors.
And there's a right way to do that too. It goes both ways. Like you have to have both. You have to be willing to put yourself out there, but you also have to be willing to put yourself out there in the right way. Right. I know that there was somebody that I heard of that, was complaining that through a friend, not to me directly, but through a friend, they were complaining that like, God, I just, Justin just isn't responding to my messages, blah, blah. And, through some conversation, they found out that like, basically this person had never had any kind of like actual interaction with him outside of from start to finish, like day one, they were just asking him to help identify things. And they were like, yeah, like he was helping me for a while. And so it's like based on the fact that he was responding, they assumed that relationship, right? Like they assumed that, okay, he's responding to and he's willing to help me identify these animals, so he'll always be able to do that. And they're like 6 months later, the only message they've ever sent him every day for a year is like, hey, can you help me identify this snake? Hey, can you help me do this? Hey, can you help me do this? It's like, dude, everything's give and take. You know what I mean? Like I'm very targeted in the timing that within within I in how I reach out to people. Sorry, I'm like trying to find the
You're
right
good.
words.
You're good.
In the sense that, like, so what we're talking about with Garrett, I know he's busy. With Garrett, I will literally shoot him a text. Hey Garrett, let me know when we can schedule a call, and that's it. And I'll leave it at that. And whenever he gets back to me, he gets back to me. I don't care if that's within an hour or if that's literally the next week. It doesn't matter because I know how busy he is. And so again, it's about having that mutual respect. I do the same thing with Kabilka, and with everybody that's talked to. I mean, even with you. I mean, even with Shane. Like Shane today, I wanted to ask Shane a question about this clutch, and so what I did, rather than call him and just assume that he's got time for me, right? I shot him a text. Hey Shane, do you have time for a call? If not, no big deal. Let me know when we can schedule something. It's just about mutual
Absolutely.
respect, man.
Yep.
And that's the way that I've built a lot of my relationships. And I'm super thankful for that because, like I said, that's where I've gained my success. That's where I would tell anybody that anybody can do the things that I'm doing, which I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm breeding ball pythons. I'm breeding ball pythons. I'm breeding reticulated pythons. The hard part is certainly like the social media side, and I think that I do a decent job with the direction that I'm headed. But I'm only doing things that I've learned from others. So respect people, learn from other people. Don't ever, I would say, don't ever be negative. There's a lot of negativity in this business. I've had friends that have told me like, oh, don't deal with this person or don't deal with that person. It's like, okay, well,
Oh, it's fucking
first of
cutthroat, man.
all,
I've had
have you?
people not realize who
Yeah,
I am and say it about me, and it's fucking awesome. And I just
of
smile at them.
course,
I'm like, okay,
sure. It's a great thing. It's a great thing, in my opinion, because it lets you know where you stand with people. But I think that it's like, first of all, okay, you're talking bad to me about another person, so it's already like kind of secondhand. Okay, what I want to know is this because of something that they did to you? So that's question number one. Second of all, okay, how the fuck does that affect me? Like, not to be ugly, but it's just a reality because
that's
let's be honest, I come from a sales
the right thing.
background. I come from a customer service background. I'm the type of person that when I go on Yelp looking for a business, which is basically never, but on the occasion that I do, I completely discount all of the like 1-star and 0-star reviews because they mean nothing to me. Because I understand there's some people you're never going to please, and sometimes you have to fire your customer. Okay,
There's a
sometimes your
bunch of
customers are
fucking
assholes.
Karens in the world, and they're not just in
It's just
female
the facts,
form.
dude. It's just the facts. So you know what? If you want me to dislike somebody, fine. Explain the scenario that happened. Explain to me why you feel that way about that person, and explain to me again why that's a repeatable offense. Because issues are
Right.
gonna happen. Animal plastics. They fucked up my order. They literally fucked up my order. I finally called them after 6 months of waiting. I called them. I left a message. They didn't answer. No big deal. They're busy. I left a voicemail. They called me the next day. The woman who literally, she was the individual that fucked up my order. She was the one that called me back. She owned her mistake. And guess what? I missed the call. She left me a voicemail. Hey, Mr. Nava, I'm so sorry. What happened is XYZ. She's like, I personally ended up somehow putting your order in with a production order that we had. Your stuff has been ready for a while. I'm so sorry. We're going to get it out tomorrow. Expect to see a tracking number. And you know what? I didn't call back. And guess what? This is the first time I'm mentioning it publicly because I don't give a fuck. Because guess what? They fucked up, but they handled it really well. Mistakes are going to fucking happen.
Yep.
People are going to, it's just the nature of any business. So, same thing. I don't put a whole lot of credit in people that talk trash about people in this hobby or specific businesses and things like that. That's not to say there aren't businesses out there that are bad. I've had some bad experiences, and I'm always torn on how to deal with that because again, I'm big in the dwarf and super dwarf stuff. I have a pure super dwarf that was sold to me by a breeder who, I'll be honest, already has a bad reputation. I was not familiar with them at the time. And even if I was, when I met them, they were super nice because I met them in person. I met them at a show. They were very nice. They were very personable, and I'm usually pretty good at reading people, so I kind of trusted the guy. The flip side of that too was that they told me that the animal I was buying was a clutch mate of an animal that Garrett Hartle had purchased. So I'm like, okay, that's a big cosign, right? Let me verify that. And matter of fact, I'll pull him out. But so I'm like, okay, let me verify that. So I called Garrett while I was at the show before I spent the money with this person. And Garrett, being Garrett, kind of operates the same way that I do. Like, I'm not going to talk shit about people. He was just like, yeah, I absolutely did. He's like, I bought an animal from that person. Like, I have a clutch mate to that. So this is what I was sold as a pure super dwarf. In case you guys can't tell, this is a really freaking tiny retic. This animal is literally almost 3 years old, and it's like maybe 4 feet long, and it's like literally as big around as like an adult corn snake. Like, it is like a corn snake size animal. This is a male. He's super like awesome. He's super chill for the most part. I just reached in with no hook and grabbed him out. He's never bitten me. But I was sold him as a pure super dwarf. Now, here's the thing. He probably is a pure super dwarf. Based on his size and based on his pattern and everything else, he's probably a pure super dwarf. The problem that I have now is that Garrett and I found out after the fact that it's not a pure Kalatoa, which is what I was sold as. I was told it was a pure Kalatoa. This is, in theory, a pure Kalatoa, but one of the animals involved in the pairing, we don't actually know the locality of. So I have a huge problem with that, because if you're going to sell something as 100% pure Kalatoa, you need to be able to trace back to wild-caught parents that both parents were from Kalatoa. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, I need that lineage.
Do you know what line that was?
Okay about breeding this animal.
So what line was that?
This was an F1. This is an F1.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was an F1, meaning that the guy that sold them to me purchased them as wild-caught animals right before the ban happened. Yeah. One side of the pairing, I don't remember if it was the male or the female. Again, Garrett was the one that researched it back. But yeah, one side of the pairing was confirmed to be pure Kalatoa. So I can confirm this is at least a 50% Kalatoa. I would say it's entirely possible this is 100% Kalatoa. But unfortunately, based on the paperwork, I can never breed him to, let's say, what happens if I breed this to a female pure Kalatoa that I have confirmed paperwork is 100% pure Kalatoa? Well, the waters are now muddy because we're not, and that's exactly it. And these females, for those that don't know, the females, they're few and far between, and they don't produce a lot of eggs, and some of them die giving birth, and so it's very complicated. So now I just have this male that I can't really do anything with due to a bad breeder advertising things very poorly. And I'm pretty torn on it. I haven't reached out to the breeder himself because, again, this is somebody that realistically I already know how the response is going to be. The best case scenario is they're going to offer to buy him back, and I don't want to do that because I refuse to put him in the position to use this male to breed further, and then further, say that, oh yeah, I'm, what I mean? Like, I'm not going to let him use this guy to make more pures when I know that they're not. So, yeah, there's just a lot of bad people in this hobby. There just are, but I'm glad to say that the reality is that those people are slowly but surely being weeded out, and I think Chris Eaton said the same thing, recently on his podcast, that he's like, there used to be a lot of pieces of shit in this hobby. He's like, but there's still a lot of pieces of shit in this hobby, but just way fewer than there used to be. It's a lot more nice guys that are being successful now. So people need to pay attention to what they're getting into and understand their projects. So I guess that's kind of what I was trying to get at. Is just there's a lot of pieces of shit in this industry, but I'm not big on calling them out directly because I could, but it's just not really my way.
That's not the way to fucking do business. And we both know that. Like, there's no reason to put a fucking bad taste in anyone's mouth because you'll find out the way a person is. And let's just get away from that. So we're coming up on 2 hours. So I'm going to try to end this at like 2.
Yeah.
Just after 2 for those that are still with us. What is your defining moment so far? Like, what's the one moment that you think has made the biggest impression in this hobby for you?
You know what, man? Honestly, I think that's a moving target. Because there's so many. Today was huge. I think and that's the way that I would love for it to continue. Like originally it was like, for those that don't know, like I literally found my first clutch of eggs, ball python eggs, on a live Zoom call with all of Cusco's Patreons. We were on a Patreon Zoom call and a private Zoom call with, I think it was Ven Russo that night. So like literally I got to share that moment of like, holy shit, guys, I have eggs, like for the first time live on a Zoom call with people like Ven Russo and Cusco and all these people who are like idols to me in the hobby. I would say that is probably still the pinnacle. Today was definitely like I would say it was a close second, just because like, again, it
You
was just me by
produced your
myself.
first babies, man. That's fucking
Yeah,
badass.
I produced my first babies, and literally it was like I've been checking this incubator every day because I knew that I was coming up on it. Today's day 55. Today was literally like I had it on my calendar, like, okay, cut eggs today, or at least make a decision on, if nothing's pipped by day 55, like I should consider cutting the eggs. And so literally today I woke up this morning, like I said, I was super stoked to do this call and do this live. And so I was super excited. And I purposely, I'm not kidding, I purposely didn't check the incubator because I'm like, okay, I'm already too like amped. I need to like do some other things first, and then I'll check that.
Dude, when
And
you put that
so I
up,
did.
I lost my shit.
I waited for I know. Like I was literally afraid people were gonna think that like I was making it up to like hype up this cast, because that's not the case. Like it really was just how it worked out. And so like, but no, so finally I was like, okay, like I got a couple things done that I needed to get done around the house, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna check the incubator. And I'm telling you, dude, I did. I literally, I woke up in the middle of the night last night thinking like I need to go check the incubator. I need to be, I don't know. It's just, I'm all about energy. It's just something weird told me I needed to check the incubator today. And I didn't even realize it was day 55. There was just something that literally woke me up at 4:30 this morning. Like, let me go check the incubator, but I didn't. I was like, I'm going to wait. I don't need to deal with that right now, because I have anxiety. So I'm like, I'm just going to put that off. So anyways, I checked the incubator at like, 10 or 11 this morning after like putting it off for hours and hours and hours. And I opened the incubator, and the boxes are super fogged up because it's just so humid, but I could see these little black circles, these little black dots. And I was like, holy shit. And I like slammed the incubator closed, and I was just like, I stood there for just like a couple minutes, just like trying to process that, you know what I mean? Like what had
That's
just
fucking
happened.
awesome.
And
Fuck
so,
yeah.
yeah, like for me personally, that was the pinnacle. And I, like I told you guys, the video that I have coming out, it's pretty emotional for me because it wasn't an intentional thing. But like when I set up my incubator, I just tucked it away in the corner that I have available. Obviously I use a cooler incubator, so it takes up a lot of floor space. But also in my snake room, I have like a lot of stuff that belong to my brother. Like that's his wrestling singlet. There's like news articles that were written about him. One of them is Spirit of Nava, like his wrestling coach. Literally used to write our last name after my brother's passing on a whiteboard as like inspiration for his players, literally every game before football, because he literally, he said that my brother's like spirit and inspired him, and he used that to literally inspire like championship football teams going forward, like for years and years. But anyway, so it was, I didn't notice it until today when I went to film my Instagram story that his singlet was like directly dead center over my incubator. So it was just a really special moment for me, to kind of like feel like my brother was kind of watching over my next endeavor. And like I said, that was a personal thing. And so I would say, like I said, today was a big one for me, but it's
huge.
definitely not the finish line. And it's definitely, this is just a springboard, man. Every day, everything that I do, every step I take, it's just a springboard to the next one. And I hope that everybody else feels that same way, because, that those are the facts. Those are the facts. We're only as good as the last thing we did. So we just got to keep pushing. That's why I'm glad to be involved
That's
with people
good
like
shit,
you, because
bro.
I know we're on the
That's
same
good
page
shit.
with that stuff, even if we got to take a break sometimes. So yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, that's where I'm at.
All right, so I've been doing a bad job of this as a fucking host. It's been running all night on the bottom. But if you haven't subscribed to Zach's YouTube, please just get the fuck over there and hit subscribe real quick. The dude's I don't even know what to say about it at this point. Like, he's got better quality than me, and I've been doing this shit for 3 fucking years. He gives a damn about everything. He's not going to put out a piece of shit content for you. Give him some love, man. He deserves all that he can get right now. Zach, brother, throw all your handles out there.
John. Yeah, so I'm Nava Reptiles on pretty much everything. Facebook I keep mostly personal. Like I accept most requests. Like if I know who you are and I know what you got going on, I'll accept it. But like Instagram is where I'm mostly active as far as like putting my stuff out. So Instagram and YouTube are my big two. So it's just Nava Reptiles, Nava, like lava but with an N. Nava Reptiles, and like I said, I think John's gonna have me in the description down below.
Yeah, I'll hit that also, shit once we get through.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, again, if you jump on Instagram, I'm going to change the link in my bio, but it'll direct you straight to my channel. There'll be a new video coming out that'll give you guys a little bit more info. I know we touched on it. I didn't want to get too deep into what I had going on in the incubator because again, I'm trying not to disturb those babies. So give me a couple days. I will have a full video out kind of going over that pairing and everything you guys can expect in terms of that. And you guys can catch up on kind of my story if that's something that even remotely interests you, which I hope that it does. I think John and I are both going big places, and he and I are going to support each other in that venture. So yeah, collaboration over competition, man. Let's just do this shit. So again, thank you for having me on, man. Seriously, it's meant a lot. It really has.
Absolutely. You guys send some love to this guy. Oh, I went the wrong way. Send some love to this guy. He's all about it. He will be your biggest hype man.
I will. I promise you I will. It's all I do. All right, guys. Everybody have a good night. I appreciate y'all
very much for joining. Good night.